In a quiet little town, nestled between rolling hills, lived a man named Arthur. His hands, though weathered by time, moved with a gentle precision. Arthur wasn't just a repairman, he was a restorer of memories. His workshop, smelling of soda and old wood, was a sanctuary for forgotten sounds. He fixed old radios. Not the sleek, digital boxers of today, but the grand, wooden cathedrals of yet, with their glowing vacuum tubes and intricate dials. For Arthur, each radio was a time capsule, as he'd carefully replace a capacitor or a resolder. A loose connection. He wasn't just fixing a circuit. He was coaxing a voice from the past back to life. With a soft click and a warm hum, the static would slowly give way. Suddenly, the workshop would fill with the soaring notes of a big band orchestra, the dramatic flair of an old radio play, or the reassuring tone of a news broadcast from a world long gone. He repaired voices from the past, until one voice brought love back into his life. Arthur's life was as quiet as the radios before he brought them back to life. His great love, Eleanor, had passed away years ago, taking with her the music of his world. They had met at a dance, swaying to a melody from a majestic floor-standing radio, the kind he now specialized in. After she was gone, the silence in his house was deafening. So he filled it with the voices of others, echoes from a happier time, a time when his own life had a soundtrack. Each repaired radio was a small victory against the silence, a testament to a time when the world seemed to listen more closely. One rainy Tuesday, a young woman named Clara brought in a radio that was more a collection of parts than a cohesive unit. It was a beautiful but battered Marconi model from the late 1930s, the same model Arthur and Eleanor had owned. "It was my grandmother's," Clara explained, her eyes hopeful. "She said it played the most beautiful music. I'd love to hear it just once." Arthur looked at the dilapidated machine, a challenge he hadn't seen in years. He saw more than broken wires and dusty tubes. He saw a story waiting to be told. He accepted the task. His curiosity piqued. For the next few weeks, he poured all his skill and heart into the Marconi. It was a stubborn patient. He meticulously cleaned every component, sourced rare, period-accurate vacuum tubes, and rewound the delicate copper coils by hand. He felt a strange connection to this particular radio, a sense of familiarity that tugged at his memory. Finally, the day came. With Clara watching, Arthur plugged in the restored Marconi. He turned the polished wooden knob. A low hum filled the room, the tubes casting a warm, orange glow. He slowly tuned the dial, navigating through a sea of static. And then, it happened. A voice, clear as a bell, drifted out of the speaker. It was a woman, her tone warm and full of laughter, dedicating a song. "To my Arthur," the voice said, a faint crackle of time in its texture, "for showing me how to dance, not just on the floor, but through life. This is our song." And then the music began. It was a slow romantic melody, the very same one he and Eleanor had danced to on the night they met. Arthur froze. His tools clattered to the floor. Tears welled in his eyes as he stared at the radio. It wasn't a live broadcast. It couldn't be. He looked closer and discovered a small, hidden mechanism inside the radio. It was a primitive recording device, a wire recorder, something his younger self had tinkered with and installed as a surprise for Eleanor. A recording he had completely forgotten. It had captured a moment from a local radio show where Eleanor had called in to make that dedication, a moment frozen in time for over 50 years. Clara stood in stunned silence, realizing she was witnessing something incredibly personal. "That my grandmother," she whispered, her voice filled with awe. Arthur, his voice thick with emotion, simply nodded. "No," he corrected gently. "That was my Eleanor Eat. Turn it out." Clara was Eleanor's grandniece. She had inherited the radio after her grandmother, Eleanor's sister, had passed away. She had no idea about the hidden recording or its significance. For her, it was just a family heirloom. For Arthur, it was a message from the love of his life, a voice he thought he'd never hear again, reaching out across the decades. In that moment, the radio wasn't just playing a song. It was playing a memory. It was bridging the gap between then and now, between loss and rediscovery. The silence in Arthur's heart, a void he had tried to fill with the voices of strangers, was finally filled with the one voice he had longed for. Clara started visiting the workshop regularly, not as a customer, but as a friend. She would bring coffee and listen, captivated, as Arthur shared stories of her great aunt Eleanor, stories she had never heard. He told her about their first dance, their shared love for rainy days, and the silly little arguments they'd have over which radio program to listen to. Through Arthur's words and the crackle of old radios, Eleanor came to life for Clara. And in sharing these memories, Arthur began to change. The quiet, reserved man started to open up. A smile returned to his face, and his workshop, once a solitary refuge, became a place of warmth and shared stories. He started repairing more than just radios. He started mending his own heart. He realized he hadn't just been fixing machines to fight the silence, but to hold on to a past he was afraid of losing completely. The voice from the past didn't just bring back a memory. It brought back a connection. It brought Clara into his life, a link to his beloved Eleanor, and a bridge to the future. He learned that while some voices fade, love's melody can linger, waiting for the right moment to be played again. And sometimes, all it takes is the right person to help you tune it in. Arthur continued to fix old radios, but now, his work had a new purpose. It wasn't about escaping the silence anymore. It was about filling it with new music, new laughter, and the beautiful, continuing story of a love that time itself could not forget.